Hello. Today I'm going to talk about using Leostream with the Teradici PCoIP protocol, and specifically with their cloud access software. We have a number of customers who use the two solutions together, and one of the questions we often get is, well, Teradici has their cloud access manager, which is included as part of the cloud access software bundle. So why do you need to look outside of that bundle and bring Leostream into the picture? Well, hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll have all the answers you need to that question. To start, let's kind of look high level. Why do people come to Leostream in the first place? What value do we bring to any hosted desktop environment? Well, first is the breadth of functionality and the features that we provide. And you'll see that I'll do a demo at the end of this discussion. But Leostream, as a vendor neutral remote access platform, we integrate with more hosting platforms. We support more protocols. We allow you to model more workflows than any of the built-in solutions that you'll get with any of the other platforms, whether that be cloud access software, HPZ Central, anything else you have out there. And what that gives you, this breadth of functionality, is flexibility. Flexibility to model the different use cases that are important to you in your organization, whether that be business continuity, remote access right now for users going home, any different type of use case you want to satisfy in the future. And because we've been at this for a long time, what we've been able to do is add this functionality, but also work with our customers to ensure that we design a solution that's easy to use. It's very simple to install and has almost a wizard-like feel when you step through the interface to set everything up. The last 2 points on here really just talk about Leostream as a company. We have a very agile development schedule and team. If you need features, if you need functionality, if you need help from our support team, we work very tightly with our customers. And it's one of the things we're very proud about as a company, is how well that's received out in the field. Now I want to spend a little time talking specifically about Leostream in the cloud, because if you're talking about using Teradici Cloud Access Software, very likely you're thinking about putting resources up in the cloud or creating a hybrid cloud approach that is supported by Leostream as well. We do have support for the big three cloud vendors, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, but also support OpenStack. So any provider who bases their cloud off of OpenStack, or if you want to build a private cloud using OpenStack, which also actually can manage Nutanix, it's a point of interest, you can use Leostream to manage all of these different systems from a single interface. And then more importantly, give users one interface to access the resources. They never know where their resources are running. They just know they go to your portal, log in, and get to where they need to. Now, some of the features that we provide that are very important, specifically in the public cloud environments, the automation that we provide through our pools and policies and plans, that allows you to grow and collapse capacity in the cloud, spin up instances when they're needed, terminate them when demand goes down, but then also to power control them. So if you have persistent machines, turn them off when the user is done, because obviously in cloud, you're going to pay for that storage, you're going to pay for that compute, and you want Leostream to manage it for you so you're not constantly watching to see, oh, did the user forget to power down their machine? So that's kind of Leostream high level. Now let's just kind of talk, feature per feature. Why would you need Leostream if you're using the Teradici Cloud Access Manager or Cloud Access Software in general? So here, the way my table is set up, and we can give you these slides if you want to be able to read through them at your leisure. But one of the big things about Leostream is we're not a hosted solution. We hand you the software, you install it wherever you want to run it. The Teradici Cloud Access Manager is a hosted system. So if you need to install in a dark site, you're working in the federal space, or basically are any customer who has a location that does not have access to the internet, then that's where Leostream is very, very handy, because you manage the software yourself. It does not ever do any kind of calling back to our data center or any kind of license server or anything. So that's kind of an architectural design factor. Now, when you start looking at features and functionality, the first one is authentication. Leostream supports a wide range of authentication, obviously Active Directory, but basically anything based on Open LDAP, NIS, if you have some old Linux servers out there. And we can even do local users. So the Leostream broker itself can act as an authentication server. And for small environments or for machines that are shared by users and everyone's using the local logins for those, that's a unique use case you can satisfy in Leostream. Smart card support. Again, for Fed spaces, this is big because it supports the PIV and CAT cards. This is specific to PC over IP zero client logins, so just do keep that in mind. To round out a discussion on authentication, something that's important a lot more now than it used to be, is multi-factor authentication. And Leostream has a number of different systems that you can integrate with to provide that second factor. So one that is the same as Cloud Access Manager is any IDP that supports the Radius protocol. So this could be Duo, Okta, Ping ID, what have you. But some unique things to Leostream is our ability to basically be front-ended by any SAML-based IDP. So Okta, for example, can also stand as your login portal, and then using SAML, it'll redirect the user over to Leostream. This is great for zero trust architectures because Leostream never owns or stores or has any knowledge of your user's password. We get whatever assertions you send back from the SAML IDP, and that's all Leostream knows. We also do have native support for Duo itself, so that's great to get the push notifications and all the things that Duo can provide. The last item on here is about having desktops joined to the domain. Because, again, Leostream can perform local user logins, we don't require desktops to be joined to Active Directory domains. So if you do have machines that are just on local workgroups for Windows, or obviously just Linux machines, even Mac OS, you can connect to those using Leostream. Now, obviously, some of that depends on which protocol can you actually use to do the connection, because if the protocol requires the machine be joined to the domain, then Leostream can't get around that restriction. But that leads me into the next slide, where we'll talk a little bit about display protocols that Leostream supports. First, let's look at user assignment. Leostream has very flexible ways for assigning users out to machines. It's not just a one-to-one user to workstation. Can be, if that's a valid use case for you. Can also be one-to-one client to workstation for more of a kiosk mode type setup. But generally, what most people do with Leostream is create pools of machines and then assign users over to these pools so that you can share machines or do the provisioning up in the cloud. So now talking about the display protocol support, here you see the list. With Leostream, it's not just PC over IP that we can support. It's a wide range of protocols, some of them being graphics intense like PC over IP or remote boost, but then other commodity-based protocols such as RDP, VNC. We can even do SSH via our Leostream gateway if that's what you need. And this list is constantly growing. Because of the way our product is architected, it's very simple for us to add support for new protocols, to add support for new hosting platforms, so that you can always build the system that works best as technologies change and grow. We always like to say we kind of help you future-proof your environment. The provisioning piece we've talked about, but I'll show you a little bit in the demo how not only can you provision based on static limits, so you want to have a pool that always has 3 available machines, for example, but you can also provision based on time of day. So if you're modeling a classroom or a lab that's available just in the evenings, you can tell Leostream to spin up and create the machines when they're needed, tear them down when the class is over. Again, it's all about helping you save costs in the cloud or just keep your compute from spinning out of control in your own data center. Idle time monitoring. This is unique to Leostream and requires our Leostream agent. And the power here is that with the agent, it's monitoring CPU and user mouse and keyboard inputs to determine if the user is idle or not. And based on those idle notifications, you can take actions, automate actions. So automatically log the user out when they've been idle, or disconnect them or lock their workstation. Gives you control over the user's session, even when you're not monitoring it actively. Those idle time notifications, as well as all the other notifications that come from the Leostream agent, can be used to manage the power state of the machine. So Cloud Access Manager can automatically power down idle machines so that you save cloud compute again, But with Leostream, you have more flexibility to indicate when does that power down occur. Maybe it's as soon as the user logs out. Maybe it's after they're idle for 5 minutes or after they disconnect. You'll see in the demo how you can do different things like that. The last couple points here, audit level tracking. In Leostream, we log basically everything that's going on in your system. And again, you own it. Those logs are local to your connection broker. We don't have them, but that means you have a way to track everything that's going on. We call this the audit level logging and tracking. And you can pull that information out of the internal database or out of whatever database you're connected to monitor your resource usage, see who's using what and when and from where. And so not only do you have control over the access through the Leostream portal, but now you can log it so you can report. The final point I'll make here is the macOS remote support. Obviously, the Cloud Access software doesn't support macOS, but there are a number of different protocols you can use with Leostream to support Mac. You can use PC over IP if you're using those Amulet hotkey KVM extenders. And there are also other options that you see listed here. The key again here, Leostream gives you one portal where users can access Windows, Linux, Mac using whatever protocol that is appropriate for the task that they're doing and the resource that they're connecting from and to. All right, so just to kind of show you a little high level, obviously, architecture here, and then I'll show you the broker in action. These are the pieces that will come into play in your setup. From Leostream, you will use the Leostream Connection Broker. That's what you'll see in the demo. It's the brains of the operation. It is essentially the replacement for the Cloud Access Manager. And then there is still a piece that you get from Teradici, and it's called the PCoIP Connection Manager and Security Gateway. This is not the Cloud Access Controller. It is not the Cloud Access Manager. It is a different piece of software. These two pieces, the Teradici PCM SG and the Leostream Connection Broker, they install on separate machines. And essentially, the Connection Manager is the go-between between the PC over IP clients, be those Zero Mobile or software, and the broker. So it facilitates the conversation between the clients and the connection broker. And then if you're talking about remote access, if you need to actually tunnel the user's connection from the client to the desktop, the security gateway from Teradici acts as that component as well. So that's the PC over IP traffic that you see here. The remote desktops themselves, they have the PC over IP Cloud Access Software agent and then our Leostream agent on them, so that the agent can provide information to the broker. And obviously the PC over IP agent handles the PC over IP traffic. The Leostream broker itself is not a part of the PC over IP traffic. So that means all the features, all the functionality, all the performance that you get native from PC over IP, you get when you use it in a Leostream environment. Okay, to show you, give you a little context for these features and the functionality I've been talking about, let me just show you the broker. So this is the login screen. I'm going to log in as the main connection broker administrator. And users can use this as well. So if you do want to customize it, give it fancy logos, your colors, whatever you want to do, go right ahead. Now, in this spirit of saving some time, I'm not going to go through a full demo here. I'm just going to highlight some of the functionality that highlights the things that I've been talking about in the slides. So generally what I tell people when they log in, go over here in the setup and then just work your way down, very wizard-like as I mentioned. In the setup section, you'll connect Leostream to all of the other systems that make up your hosted desktop environment. So your authentication servers. If you're using Active Directory, here's where you register that. If you have multiple domains or a subdomain, you can have as many Active Directory servers registered here as you want. And they pretty much act independently within Leostream. This is also, if you want to use SAML, this is where you would register the IDP that you're using for as your SAML front end. Here you notice I happen to be using Okta. I mentioned Radius earlier. If you do want to use Radius as the Radius protocol to integrate with an MFA provider, then you register that MFA provider here. This is also where you would integrate with native Duo if you wanted to do that. Here you can actually register as many different MFA providers as you need. So if you have different groups of users, one that needs to use Okta, another one that is using Duo, you actually have that flexibility to change the MFA provider based on who the user is. Centers is where you connect Leostream to all of the different hosting platforms. So here you see in my particular environment, I'm connected to AWS as well as VMware. The PC over IP Devices Center, this is specific to the hardware pieces. So your PC over IP Zero clients and also the remote workstation cards or those Amulet Hotkey KVM extenders that I mentioned. This is the center that inventories those devices. I'm not really going to talk a lot about the hardware-based solutions for PC over IP, but you can always contact us if that's relevant for you and if you have some questions. Adding a center is very straightforward, and you can see this is where if you wanted to do a multi-cloud environment, you can create all the different clouds or connect to all the different clouds here. You can connect to different regions within the clouds. Moving on to configuration. The configuration section is where all that flexibility in defining workflows comes into play. Here I can define pools, and you'll notice something unique to Leostream is the fact that these pools can be nested. So here's a pool that's everything in my AWS center. And then within there, I've broken it down into subgroups. In my case, sometimes it's based on operating systems, sometimes it's based on the protocol. You can create this center using whatever functionality works best for you. There's a lot of flexibility in creating the pools. The pools also control this provisioning that I've been talking about. So just as an example, if I was to create a new pool, I can enable provisioning, indicate I'm provisioning into AWS. As I mentioned, I can do it based on static limits or even based on time of day. And then in the provisioning parameters section, I just tell the broker how am I provisioning, what instance type do I want, what subnet. The information in there is going to be very dependent on the platform you're provisioning into. So after you create pools, then the thing you think about is how do I want to manage the user's connection to that pool? So desktops in that pool, the first part of that being creating a protocol plan. The protocol plan tells the broker how to connect to the machine. Now, if a user logs in from a Teradici client, we have to connect them using PC over IP, so that's pretty straightforward. But you do have options. Users can log in from web browsers. They can log in using our Leostream Connect client, which does install on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And the types of display protocols you can use varies based on those client types. So here you just indicate, how do I want to connect? Do I want to do, if it's in AWS, maybe I want to do a DCV connection, nice DCV. Maybe I want to do it in browser. You have a lot of, again, flexibility. I say that word a lot. The next two type of plans, here's where you start to see the Leostream agent come into play. So if I look at a power control plan, you see it's broken into these sections. Did the user disconnect? Did they log out? Have they gone idle? Those are the events coming from the Leostream agent. And so here's where you can automate power state based on those events. So example here, I'm giving the user 5 minutes after they log out. If they don't log back in that amount of time, I'm going to go ahead and shut the machine down. The release plan, it determines how long the user owns the machine. As I mentioned, you can hard assign a machine to a user, so then it's always theirs. No one else gets to use it. But the best way is to share resources out of a pool. The release plan determines how long after a user grabs a machine out of the pool can they continue using it. So as an example, here again you see this form is broken into sections. Did the user disconnect, log out, go idle? So here I'm saying if the user disconnects, if you think I'm in a PC over IP Zero client, you can push the button that disconnects the PC over IP session, but the user is still technically logged into the remote operating system. That's a disconnect event. But here I'm saying, okay, a lot of users tend to just hit the button when what they really meant is to log out. So I'm going to go ahead and release the machine to the pool immediately. Now these events trigger one another. So if the disconnect causes a release, that release is going to trigger this part of the plan down here, which says, check if the user hasn't logged out, and if they haven't, use the Leostream agent to force the log out. And that way the machine is really ready for the next user to come in and grab it. You see here in the release plan is also where you can do different events actions based on the idle event as well. So your pools and your plans all come together in what we call policies. Just really quickly, policy is a set of rules. And here what this policy is saying is that I'm going to offer all the desktops out of my PC over IP Cloud Access Software Linux pool, and obviously connect using PC over IP. And then I'm also offering the user one machine out of the Windows pool here, which I will still connect to via PC over IP. The last step in this, and then I'll show you what the user sees, is just assign that policy out to a user. So if I jump down to the assignments page here, the rows on this page will mimic exactly the rows that you have on the Authentication Servers page in the Setups section. And here essentially is where you define these rules that say, based on who the user is and where they come in from, do they have to go through some sort of MFA provider? And then assuming all that passes, they get a role in a policy. So just quickly, so here, that was all what the administrator sees. A lot of dials and buttons and widgets, but from the end user's perspective, all very, very simple. Here I've launched a PC over IP software client, and I'm just going to log in as Mabel. My session timed out. So Mabel is offered 2 machines here. I'm going to go ahead and connect to one. And again, at this point in time, Leostream not at all in the picture. We're connecting via PC over IP. I happen to have mine launching in a not full screen mode just so I can still get back to the back, but you have complete control over how this connection will get launched based on different PC over IP parameters that you want to get set. In the background here you can see that Leostream is in fact tracking everything that's going on and logging it for you. So I can see the login for the user, I can see the desktops getting offered, see the machine getting assigned, and see the different notifications coming from the Leostream agent. If I look here, I can look at my Windows pool and see that Mabel's assigned there. I can click status, and that's our agent, the Leostream agent, returning information about who is logged in there. And if, for example, this happens to be a user who just forgot to log out, you can actually come in here and forcefully log the user out directly from the console here. Notice my session's gone there in the background. And that wraps up the demo. Obviously, there were a lot of other features that you probably saw flash by in there. We're happy to give you any more information that you need on any of the functionality we provide. Just drop us an email at sales.leostream.com, and we hope to talk to you soon. Thanks.